correct? Whose measuring scale of morality is the right way to go? Is there a right? Now, when it comes to things like stealing, one might say, okay, any hand that stole something should be cut off. That way that person will never steal again, because they will always have a reminder because their hand is gone. One of their hands is gone. Another person might say, no, that's too extreme. We should incarcerate them for a certain amount of time, or punish them through community service and allow them to think about their crime through that. Or in some people's measuring scale, stealing isn't bad at all. And some will say that if somebody steals food and they really need it, that's okay. To give another example, a lot of people say murderers, people who murder somebody, who kill them, not in self-defense, should be basically executed, no matter what the means are. And others say that no, they should be incarcerated for as long as it takes for them to be reformed. And reformation is a big part of the criminal justice system for a lot of societies. And then others say no, that's not enough. But morality in general, there are many different measuring scales. For instance, war. When it comes to war, one side fighting against another because that side basically transgressed against somebody's borders or their security or attacked their people, then bombing is allowed throughout the entire country to basically target military sites. But not only military personnel are injured in these kind of bombings. Not only military personnel feel the effects of these bombings, and whoever is killed is always felt by the mothers and the fathers and the family and the friends of those people. So even if a bombing of a military site that is going to most certainly attack us, whoever us is, the people who are, who raise those individuals, be they soldiers or otherwise, be they soldiers, insurgents, or just personnel in general, will not think that it is just for them to be killed, will not feel happiness because their loved ones have died, have been executed in a way. And this basically gets to the heart of the fact that everyone's measuring scale of morality, everyone's measuring scale is different. There are multiple measuring scales in any conflict in everyday life in society, and society in general is an attempt to combine these measuring scales in a way that shows what the best measuring scale is. We all have to come to a conclusion and operate together by combining our measuring scales. But even if most people think one action is just, even if most people think that killing this person is just because they killed a lot of people, that doesn't mean that we're inherently right. That doesn't mean that there is inherent good in the ending of a life, or in the punishment of theft, or in especially somebody choosing to marry somebody that is of the same sex, but in other people's religious measuring scale that is incorrect and not acceptable. The crazy thing about measuring scales is that they are very much human. They're connected to time. They're connected to individuals. And if individuals and time are accepted as definite factors in the existence of humanity and the universe, then there will be multiple opinions on them. There will be multiple understandings of how Dharma should be carried out. And Dharma is the basic religious but also spiritual measuring scale of the universe. Karma is very much a part of Dharma. Everyone is punished for their crimes, just the amount that is required. And now, when humans write laws, karma is not taken into effect. And even if karma doesn't exist, cause and effect always exists. Now, punishment is meant to make somebody learn. It's meant to show everyone else that, okay, this is what happens when you do this. But reformation, rehabilitating somebody who commits a certain crime, actually allows that person to become an efficient member of society, no matter what society you're in. Now, the measuring scales that different religions put forth, different spiritual traditions put forth, and even different political structures put forth, whether it be capitalistic or communist, and of course all the other religions, they're slightly different because the crimes are considered in a slightly different light. And that doesn't mean that Just because different crimes are considered in a different light by every different society, that doesn't mean that they're not lit, even if we disagree with them. That doesn't mean that there isn't something illuminated. And human beings have tried to work our way into a place where we can all agree on what is bad and what is good, what is evil and what is virtuous, what is true and what is false. And there is no definite solution to that in any given moment. Certainly not this moment. We haven't reached a stage where we can say, okay, stealing in every case should be, the punishment for that should be chopping off a hand, or putting someone in prison for a certain amount of time, or that person being able to take from that person's household or that person's possessions. We haven't reached a point that resembles that, because there are a number of ways of looking at any given situation. There are a number of ways of looking at punishment and reformation, and no way is particularly correct. For instance, if an American soldier who is tasked with bombing an Iraqi village who is filled with insurgents, and maybe it's not all insurgents, but the majority is insurgents, decides to bomb that village, it is because of an order. It is because, and the order was produced because that village had so many insurgents in it that to put soldiers into that village might cause casualties for that army. So in the attempt to not cause personal casualties to the American army, or not cause basic casualties to all our allies in the region, we bomb that village. But is the families of everyone in that village going to agree that this measuring scale is correct? That it is correct to bomb that village because there were insurgents in it, but there were also women, children, babies, and men who had no part in the fight? Of course the insurgents are killed, but is the measuring scale correct by the acceptance that collateral damage will always exist? That collateral damage is an unfortunate realization of war, an unfortunate product of war. The measuring scales get very diluted and gray and nebulous when we start adding in all these factors when it comes to war, when it comes to combat, when it comes to punishment and reformation. And the more that we look at it, the more we realize that kindness and compassion is far more the way to go. We should always try to be polite, but never fail to be kind. We should always realize that cruelty is boring, and that love is never a lie. Love is always the truth. Now, does this mean that I don't think that people should be punished, that they shouldn't go to jail, and maybe some people should even be executed? I would accept that in certain circumstances. Or that people should die in war if they're combatants on the other side that has attacked a certain nation. That's arguable. But just because it's arguable doesn't mean that it's the absolute truth. The absolute truth is ethereal. It's hard to nail down. It's non-corporeal. And ideology, the intellect itself, allowing ideology to exist and reassessing every situation based on every single occurrence must be taken into account. The intellect of the human being is a remarkable thing, but sometimes it works only for our egoic acceptance of the things that we think must happen. And most of what we do doesn't need to happen. Most of what we do is based on fear. And because everything that we decide is filtered through the ego. And the ego is a basic ally of fear. And it goes back to, survival instinct and our tribe and their tribe. But as we develop as a human race, we have to realize that humanity doesn't need to be tribal. It doesn't need to be animalistic. We can find other ways that don't involve killing. And if we decide that certain ways of killing are necessary, then we should realize this. We should say, okay, well, we've made this decision now, but shouldn't we work towards another way in the future? Shouldn't we work towards an ability to basically imprison or stop people that doesn't involve completely killing them, completely destroying an entire village or a city? Shouldn't we work towards an equilibrium of measuring scales? Because measuring scales, moral measuring scales, are entirely what make up law in any nation, in any tribe, in any village, any town, any city. And depending on what city or what nation it is, or what town or village or tribe it is, there will be a different measuring scale. There will be a different way of looking at the situation. And the only way to progress as one humanity is to put all these measuring scales together and decide together what is correct for now and how we move forward. But before we even approach the table, most people have hate in their hearts. Most people want to say that their understanding is correct. Their measuring scale is the only right one. And that's what we have to get rid of first in order to approach that table where we can put all our measuring scales together. All religions, all lack of religion, all nations, all political groups. In order to approach that table, we have to blatantly admit that we aren't sure about our own measuring scale and not be stubborn and stick to it in all instances. Once we do that, once we're able to approach the table, then that's when humanity can start to exist as one. It can start to try and understand each other truly, without all of these blinders, all of these filters that come between us and viewing what other people think. But thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been informative. If it hasn't, or if it has, feel free to shoot it down in the comment section below. If you like this video at all and want to help the channel, hit that thumbs up down there. And what is your measuring scale? How do you determine who should be punished, how they should be punished? Should somebody be punished for murder by killing them? Or should they be put in prison for life? Or is there somewhere in between or beyond where they should be punished for a certain amount of time until they're reformed? How should people be punished for stealing? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I hope to see all of you in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and y'all have a great day.